Hi guys, my name is Nonima Tigela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to talk about Absalom Zungu. People are saying a lot of things there regarding to him. There is a claim that is doing the rounds even on the socials that Absalom wanted to testify so that he must have made a state. That means he must have made a statement. That that line is completely false, and that's what State Prosecutor George Malo is trying to move the narrative too. But no. That is not what happened. But before we get into doing that, guys, please make sure you do not forget to like, to share, to comment, and most importantly, please make sure you are subscribed on the channel. Please make sure you are watching the videos up until the end. Please make sure that you are supporting this channel by all means that you can. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Now, the claim that Absalom Zungu wanted to testify, so he must have made a statement, is completely false, guys. No. Absalom Zungu's whole point was that a statement was created in his name without his consent, which is exactly why he expected to be called in court to dispute it, not to confirm it. Okay? That is what is happening here. People keep repeating he wanted to testify, including Baloyi, because that's the narrative that he wants to move, of which that narrative is very wrong. He's moving a narrative. He wanted to testify, so he must have made a statement. That's very wrong. Wrong. Absalom wanted to testify because someone fabricated a statement and pinned it on him. He came to court to challenge the fake document, not to endorse it. That's why he is in court. That is why. Let's clear this up very fast, guys. I will repeat for the third time because I need you to understand. Absalom never said he made a statement. He never said that. He wanted to testify because a statement was forged in his name, not because he wrote one. He expected to be called so he could tear it apart, not support it. Are we clear? Are we clear, guys? Are we clear, guys, when it comes to that? Are we clear? There is a false narrative circulating that Absalom Zungu wanted to testify, so he must have made a statement. This is completely incorrect. Very incorrect. In reality, Absalom's entire reason for wanting to testify was always the opposite, as it is right now. A statement was allegedly created in his name without his consent, and he expected to be called so he could dispute it, not confirm it. That is why this claim is legally and factually wrong, what Absalom actually said in court, why the disputed statement is so critical to this case, how this affects the credibility of the investigative process, what it means for the Senzo Meyiwa trial going forward. That's what you need to open your eyes, your ears, and use your mukhodu for. Okay? That's where you are supposed to be thinking on those lines. There is nowhere where he said he did the statement. This is where the truth begins to unravel, and the record must be set straight. That is what he is trying to do. So for people to keep continuing saying that, no, he did this, Malo is playing you. The story just flipped. What started as a witness came forward may now be a fabrication scandal that threatens to topple the state case. Absalom Zungu says a statement was created in his name without his consent, and that is why he wanted to testify, to dispute the document, not to confirm it. If the court treats the evidence the way precedent demands, a Section 174 discharge could be on the cards because he is distancing himself on this matter. He is distancing himself on the matter. That's what he is doing. Let's do a quick timeline on this situation. Police say Absalom provided a 2019 statement that implicated two accused, 1 and 2, okay, in the Senzo Meyiwa case. And that is how they got the confessions, the so-called confessions, for arresting 3, 4, and 5. 1 and 2 were arrested because of the 2019 statement that Absalom gave on to the police. Okay, that statement was relied on in the state as lineup of evidence, but when Absalom Zungu appeared in court, he denied having made or signed that statement and told the court he would come specifically to dispute it. And that is what he is sitting there and doing. That's the factual pivot that changes everything at this point. He is rejecting. They showed him rejecting the signatures and distancing himself from the alleged statement. I don't know why people are so busy with the narrative that Baloyi is trying to push. It's not going to help, guys. Key point, disputed statement, disputed signatures. Why is Baloyi not focusing on that? We will do a video on that alone. And why is Section 174 matters here in this case? Section 174 on the Criminal Procedure Act allows the court to discharge the accused at the close of the state case if there is no evidence on which a reasonable court could convict. Put simple, if the state case collapses under its own evidence, the judge can and sometimes must stop the trial. That's what needs to happen here. 174 is equal to discharge when no reasonable evidence remains. Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? We already did a video where we were showing the relevant precedents of Lubaxa, Hena, and Tandwa. Those are the three authorities every practitioner is citing right now. And that's what the court is supposed to be handling the case. How? I already spoke about State versus Lubaxa. SCA established that a court must discharge where the state's evidence is such that no reasonable court could convict. The test focuses on whether there is evidence upon which a conviction could reasonably be based. If not, discharge follows. State versus Hena adds weight on the approach that unreliable, contradictory, or constitutionally tainted evidence can make the state case unsafe and justify relief at the early stage. State versus Tandwa, SCA, important on the exclusion of improperly obtained or tainted evidence and on the broader reliability and fairness considerations. The court must weigh. Tandwa reminds us that where the investigation or evidence gathering is deeply irregular, the court must consider the truthfulness and admissibility of that evidence. Together, those authorities create a framework. If core elements of the state case are demonstrably unreliable, contradictory, or tainted, the judge must seriously consider a Section 174 discharge. Because what is this? What are we dealing with here? He needs to apply the law on the facts. He needs to apply the law on the facts. So now, apply that framework to Absalom's denial. If we apply those three authorities to Absalom's denial, one, core evidence under attack, the alleged statement is not peripheral. It's described as a breakthrough piece. If the person whose name is on the document says it wasn't his, the evidentiary value of that document is vitally weakened. The state's reliance on it becomes precarious. Because what? Ayikho indaba ya evidence kaBaloyi. Number two, signature and chain questions. If signatures are disputed, chain of custody and authenticity becomes major issues. Tandwa and related jurisprudence stress that where evidence is tainted or obtained irregularly, courts must scrutinize admissibility. The third thing, reliability and credibility. Lubaxa test ask whether any reasonable court could convict on the remaining evidence if the supposed breakthrough disappears or is a suspect or suspected, what remains may be too weak. The cumulative effect could satisfy the Lubaka test for discharge. For constitutional fairness, HENA and other authorities require the court to protect the accused's right to a fair trial by excluding or discounting tainted evidence. If exclusion leaves the state with no viable case, discharge follows. Bottom line, the practical outcome could be that the judge is forced to ask, has the state proved a case that a reasonable court could convict on? The contested statement is essential to that inquiry. So where we are standing, Judge Ratta has no choice. Judge Ratta has no choice but to discharge the accused. The accused need to be discharged. So in conclusion, strong sign off on this entire situation. This is one of those moments where procedure becomes destiny. The dispute over a single document could determine whether this trial continues or collapses at the state's feet. Stay tuned, because if the court applies the authorities properly, the consequence may be a Section 174 discharge. That's no longer a possibility, but a really likelihood. That is where we are standing. So please make sure you don't go anywhere. I will bring you more of the courtroom drama, more on the Noni M podcast. Please make sure you support me. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.